Hey everybody, it's your old pal Wood Doofus. We're outside my dad's garage right now. We're about to go inside and take a look and see what he's got. Alright, so this is my dad. He's a former professor of geography, now retired, and in his spare time he likes to make things out of wood, just like many of us. What's your history with woodworking?
Well, I first started doing woodworking in junior high school. I took a woodworking shop class, like a lot of people did back in those days, and did a little bit then, and then fell away from it until we moved to North Carolina, where they make a lot of furniture, have a lot of hardwood available, so I picked it up again.
All right, so how long have you had your base set of tools here then?
I started putting together all these tools probably 10 years ago, and it took me 2 or 3 years to get them all together. I didn't get them all at once, took them one at a time, and as jobs came up or projects came up and I needed a particular tool, I'd go get that one.
All right, so what would you say would be a good first tool to get, or maybe a first 2 to 3?
Well, the first tool that just about every woodworker gets, I think, is a table saw. That's probably the most versatile tool that we have. I actually get most of my use out of the compound miter saw. And I do a lot of cutoffs and things like that. I've gotten to the point where mostly what I do with the table saw is ripping and also datoing and some other things. You can do a lot with a table saw because of all the jigs that are possible.
So you want to start us with the tools as wood is processed through. So which ones are we starting with then?
Yeah, so most of what I did and do now is hardwoods. And I get those hardwoods in a semi-finished form. When you get them from the hardwood stores, they're not surfaced on 4 sides. And so you have to do some milling to get it to where you can really work with it. And the 2 tools that are most important for milling is a planer and the joiner. And you need both of these tools. A lot of people, I think, make the mistake of just getting a planer and think they're good to go. You really need the joiner. That's the first tool you'd use to get a reference surface. You flatten one side and one edge with the joiner, and then the planer's job is to make a parallel edge to that flattened surface, that reference surface that you make with the joiner. If you want to do wider surfaces like tabletops and things like that, you really need an industrial size planer. And quite often you can go to your hardwood store or someplace like that, and they will, for a fee, they'll be able to do some of those wider pieces. So most of what I do here involves making boards for the projects. The next tool that I use most often, like I said, is the table saw and the compound miter saw. The table saw, I just use the contractor saw, but I like the cast iron table or surface and a good fence. Those 2 things are really important. I think that's more important than the horsepower that you have here. A cabinet saw is really useful. A higher horsepower cabinet saw is really useful if you're going to be doing a lot of thick hardwood. The most important thing about the table saw and the compound miter saw is the quality of the blade. You can have the best table saw, the most expensive you can find. You put a cheap blade on it, you're just wasting your money. So I always try to use a carbide tip blade. For a lower horsepower motor, I use a thin kerf blade. For a cabinet saw, you can use a thicker kerf blade because it's got more power. If you're doing softwoods, the pines and the poplars and things like that, those you can use a thicker kerf blade, but you still want a quality blade. It's going to give you a smoother, straighter cut. It's going to be safer to use. For the compound saw, I tend to use a 60-tooth blade because you're cutting cross cuts and molding and things like that where you want a really smooth clean cut. With the table saw, it depends on what I'm cutting. If I'm ripping, I'll use, of course, a rip blade. And if I'm cross-cutting, I'll use a cross-cut blade. A lot of guys try to get by with a combination blade. I don't have anything against that. If you're cutting softwoods or pine and fir and that kind of thing, that's perfectly fine. Any kind of construction work is really what combination blades are for. They're not really intended for fine woodworking. Once we get the boards cut to size and ready to join it, the tool that's really the most fun, I think, in the shop is a router table. And this router table's not the greatest. It's a smaller one, and if you do a lot of edge work, I would recommend a larger one. I put the larger motor on it because I do use some larger blades for cabinet doors and things like that, raised panel doors. So I'll use some big blades. So I need the heavier motor, 3 horsepower motor. But you can get by with a 1 or 1.5 horsepower motor just fine with these. I like the table because it gives you the opportunity to use a fence, which is safer to use in a lot of instances, and you get a nice straight, even cut with that. You can do a lot of work on larger surfaces freehand. I don't have any problem with that. The last maybe tool that I have, or at least floor tool, well, there's 2 of them here. I've got a drill press. A lot of people say, well, can't you get by with just a portable drill? Sure, you can. But there are times when being able to drill a nice straight plumb hole makes all the difference for joinery, particularly doweling and things like that. The other is the bandsaw. Bandsaws have a lot of fans, and then they have people who don't quite know what to do with them. I'm somewhere in the middle. I use my bandsaw quite a bit for curved cuts and for shaping, but some people really like them for everything from cutting circles to even ripping. If you set up an outfeed table, you can do a pretty nice job of ripping with a good fence on a bandsaw. But this bandsaw is a small 3/4 horse. There's a lot of 1/2 horse out there. And those are really mostly for shaping. If you're going to do heavy work like ripping or something like that, or working again in hardwoods, you need more horsepower and you need a floor model, which of course gets into more money. So this is one that every now and then I'm really glad I have it, but it's not something I use on a regular basis with every project. So those are the main tools, and then of course I have the usual hand tools, hand routers, a jigsaw, several bits, screwdrivers, power screwdrivers, all those kinds of things. They have their place as well. The other thing that I would like to get, if I ever get it fully organized, of course, is an air cleaner and a vacuum system. Right now I don't have a system for managing sander dust. Right now I've got everything I need to make things around the house and make things for friends and family.
So you saw the basics of the shop, so why don't we go inside? We'll just see a couple of things that he's made for his own house and see what kind of work he does.
One of the things that I first was attracted to woodworking was the arts and crafts or mission style. So I made the sofa table here, which is a little bit of a cheat because what I had was 3 plain sawn boards rather than quarter sawn. So that's not really true to style. The trim and the legs and everything are quarter sawn, but I did go with a plain sawn top, but it's all solid white oak. This one was kind of more of a Macintosh arts and crafts style. It is all quarter sawn, both the top and the legs. It's got the shoe foot leg on it and the cutouts, which was kind of challenging to do with chisel work. It involved some hand work, which I wasn't quite accustomed to. Made this case that started out narrow, about 18 inches, and what I did was just widen it. I tried a little different wood with this one. I used some Liptus, which is a tropical hardwood that is replacing or can be used in place of mahogany. It's sustainably grown, developed by Weyerhaeuser Company, I believe. The shelves have the keyed joints. The tenons are through tenons, and then they're keyed in to lock the shelves in place at the top and the bottom. And then the other shelves are just held in with pocket screws.
You got a Santa Claus up there, 365.
Yeah, I got Santa in his workshop with his woodworker apron on.
A woodworker Santa. Okay.
And I made the little clock. Did some of my first dovetail jointing was on this little clock that I played around with a little bit. So one of the more challenging things I tried to do was a Colonial chest of drawers, and wanted to follow again. I'm a fan of Stickley, so I wanted to have it made with center guided and side hung drawers here. So these drawers are a little different than what you see a lot of other places. They're hung on the sides with some wax runners made of ipe, and then a center guide right here. So there's no scraping on the frame there in the drawers. I put a little quarter column on there. In retrospect, I wished it had been fluted. But these quarter columns, I was able to purchase these. I didn't turn those. I don't have a lathe, as you saw. But you can buy these already turned, and the company will actually quarter them or half them or whatever you want to do, and then put those into the corner there. Same with the feet. The OG bracket feet were beyond my ability, so I bought those already finished and shaped, and was able to add them onto the chest of drawers. So basically I made the box and the drawers, which is kind of what woodworking is. And then I had some leftover pieces from the Liptus project, so I used that for the center panels on this headboard. While we're here, I mentioned earlier that I got started in woodworking in junior high school. This is a junior high school pine, or I think it's fir, but a bookcase that I made, I won't even tell you how many years ago in junior high school. It's been through a lot and is pretty dinged up, but it still works.
How did you round over those tops?
I cut those on a bandsaw.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
One of the larger, more challenging pieces I did was this corner cupboard. I've always admired corner cupboards. I think they're a very efficient use of space, for one thing. So this is solid cherry. The case here is 5/4 cherry. And then the bottom cupboard is the same, 5/4 cherry with a raised panel door. Leaded glass I had done at a glass shop. I just made the frame. It's a nice display cabinet and has good use of space. This was a mirror that I made. I mentioned that the table saw can do some interesting things. This cove cut on this inner frame was cut on the table saw with a special a blade. The last thing I did for the bedroom was the panel bed. It's a cherry frame and walnut panels. And if I had a little more skill, I would have gone for a sleigh bed, but I wasn't quite up to that yet, so I just made straight panels.
All right, so that's it. I bet you would have never guessed that my dad is a college professor that talked to students for a living, but now you know. That's the long and short of his shop here in Utah, where he's retired. And if you want to check out more of the stuff that I'm working on, trying to get to the point that my dad is at eventually, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll be able to get to making some of that kind of nice stuff in the future. But right now I'm working on more simple stuff, starter stuff, beginner stuff. But I appreciate you watching, and as always, don't be afraid to be a doofus.